And a very warm welcome to everyone listening to this talk. The topic today is embracing the new norm. And my name is Sona Bahri. I live in Abu Dhabi and I run Inner Space Center in Abu Dhabi. In fact, I've been living here now for almost 13 years. And it's quite an experience living in the Middle East, a completely new culture for me when I first got here. And I was previously in Australia, where I was practicing Raj Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris in both Sydney and Melbourne. For a long time, I was in the retreat center in the Blue Mountains, and I'm not sure if any of you have been to the Blue Mountains, but it's a very beautiful place where the Brahma Kumaris have a very large property on 132 acres of what is called the Australian bushland. So it was a wonderful experience, a very beautiful experience living there. And then from all that greenery, I came here to the desert, which has been another fantastic experience. So I've been meditating now since 1987, which is just on 33 years. And my parents started meditating when I was 16. So I was sort of brought up in a family where we meditated. And luckily my father was quite an open person, so he allowed me and my sister to take on exactly how much we needed, and there was no force to do more than what we wanted to. So it's been a wonderful journey over the last 33 years or so. So back to today's topic. Very interesting topic, embracing the new norm. I guess 2020 was a year when everything was turned upside down. And for many of us, what we thought was normal no longer appeared to be normal. So I thought I'd just take the topic and break it up into little pieces. And let's just look through what it actually means. Let's unpack the topic first and then talk about how spirituality actually helps us to embrace anything new. So the first word I'd like to look at is norm or normal. And I guess, most of us are born into families and societies and communities that dictate to us what normal is. But the question I've been asking myself over the past year is, what is normal? And what is normal for me? I think it's really important to personalize it, because there's many definitions of normal for out there, what the world thinks is normal. And perhaps most of us, since we were born, were told what normal should be. So the way you led your life was the way your parents led it, perhaps, and there was a structure that was considered normal. If you did anything outside that structure, then you were labeled abnormal. And, some of us just grew up with that understanding until we were really shaken to our core last year. So I'd like you to reflect a little bit on what is normal. What is normal, which is personalized to me? If I had to rewrite what is normal and I was given a blank piece of canvas, what would I want normal to look like? So the second word I'd like to have a look at is the word new. Whenever we think of newness, we're given an opportunity to recreate. And again, I'm not sure how many times we have been given this piece of canvas, this open space, to completely rewrite, redraw something new for ourselves. Most of us, for many decades, have been on a treadmill. We're just constantly moving, going, doing, thinking. It's all sort of a pattern. the week goes from Monday to Friday, and then you get 2 days on the weekend when you usually do the same old thing anyway. Life has a routine. You grow old. As you grow older, you go to school, you go to university, you get married, you have children and grandchildren. This has been the way it's been for millennia. But the question I'd like to ask you today is, if you had to recreate your life, if you had the opportunity for something to be new in your life, what newness would you bring in? Would you carry on doing things in the same old routine that you always did? Or is there something you could do a little bit different? Is there something that could be more aligned to who you are? Maybe to your core values? Something more aligned to your interests? Something more aligned to your creativity? Newness is such a beautiful thing. Newness often implies stepping up. This is what I've been doing, and when I want to create newness, this often means I want to upgrade myself. I want to do something out of the box, something that I've never done before. So a new norm. Can I recreate what is normal? Can I upgrade my life and the way I live it to something better than the way it was before 2020? And today we've all been given this opportunity to recreate. The third word I'd like to look at is actually embracing. What does it mean to embrace? Usually you embrace someone you love. You embrace someone who belongs to you. So embracing the new norm, perhaps it means exactly that. To make an idea, a thought, belong to me. To imbibe it in my life, to accept it wholeheartedly, and to make it happen. Because the new norm might just be something that I wish for. It might be just a set of ideas or feelings that are somewhat different to the way I did things in the past. But if I want to put them into my life, how am I going to do that? If I want to embrace them, how am I actually going to put those thoughts, feelings, ideas into my actions and into my energy field? Energy field meaning everything I vibrate. How can it be that new thing? And I guess for me, 2020 was a very interesting year. Living in Abu Dhabi, I'm very close to India, so I had gone to Mount Abu, the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris, for a retreat. And I actually took the last flight out of Abu Dhabi. That was around mid-March. And I landed in India, one of the last flights to land in India, if you are a non-Indian. And India, therefore, closed its doors to the rest of the world. And then a week later, Abu Dhabi closed its doors, so I couldn't go back. And so I was left in no man's land. I was here on this beautiful mountain. I'd gone there for a retreat. The retreat soon got over, and I entered a phase of 7.5 months of lockdown in Mount Abu, which was quite amazing. It's a very beautiful place to be in. I can't say that I ever wished to be in a more comfortable situation. We were all very far away from COVID-19 for a very long time. And I think for me, initially, it was like an adventure. But as time went on and I started to realize that I was truly locked down and this was going to be a long-term situation, I started to ask myself, if I'm being given an opportunity to recreate my life in a place where I don't know many people, so spiritually we would say I don't have many karmic accounts. no push, no pull, no obligations, not much responsibility. What would I do? How would I redraw my entire life and start again? Because new normal often means resetting the button, starting again. So I started to ask myself, question actually, everything that I had taken up in my life. All the practices, waking up at a particular time, eating a particular certain type of food, the amount of exercise I do, the way I interact with people, how much time I spend on my mobile phone. I started to ask myself, is this what I always want to do? Is this really normal? Is this aligned with who I want to be? And then I started to go a bit deeper and ask myself, are the thoughts I have, are the feelings that I create, are the habits that I've adopted the way I'd like them to be? Are they really normal? Or are they just something that I was taught in childhood or that I picked up along the way in my life? And I just adapted myself to believing that that's the way it always has to be. Is there anything I could do differently? And since no one was watching me, no one I knew, I could completely think out of the box. And so I started to reassess how I wanted to live my life. And it was interesting because at the same time I was listening to all the news going on in the world. And you know, whenever things happen in the world, there's many news channels and many opinions, and you kind of have to find your own place in amongst all that's happening around you, all the chaos. And so I guess there was a lot of consideration for what I was hearing, but at the same time, I started to question my own health. I started to question the messages that my mind was sending to my body, creating or taking away good health. And for the first time in my life, I felt I was given the opportunity to completely reset. I wonder if it's been the same for you too. I wonder if 2020 was a year when you also got the opportunity to rethink. No more did you have to go to office. Many of us had a few months away from our normal office routine, work routine. Maybe you got the opportunity to cook different food, not the usual stuff, partly because you couldn't get to a supermarket to buy what you usually do, and partly maybe because it was a chance to simplify what you do. Maybe you got an opportunity to reset the relationships that you're in, and to ask yourself, which relationships really matter? And this is all part of what a new norm is. And this is what embracing something new is all about. So I'd like you to join me for a little meditation commentary now. A little reflection, actually. Let's look at what was. Let's look at what is. And let's look at where we're going and what it is that we really want to embrace. So sit comfortably and relax. If you need to close your eyes, that's fine. If you want to keep them open, then just rest them gently on a point. And while you're relaxed, I'd like you to look back at your life. And see yourself as a child. What clothes are you wearing? Where are you? And remember everything that was happening around you at the time. The circumstances, the people around you, the culture that you were brought up in, the family. And I'd like you to observe the impact that all of that had on you. Would you have been different? Had you been born in a different family, a different culture, a different country or continent? And now observe what happened as you grew older and you left the confines of your family. You went to school and later on to university. Who told you what was normal then? What normal were you trying to fit into? Probably your friends, later work colleagues, they all redefined normal for you. Perhaps you went on to getting married and having children. So what became normal then? And how did you adjust yourself to that new definition of normal? And now, come to the present moment. And just observe in a detached way the impact that your past life has had on you. On defining how life should be led, and what normal really means. And now I'd like you to clear a space inside yourself. Clear some space in your mind. And in that space, I'd like you to write down some of the values that are really close to your heart. Values that guide you through life. Values that you come back to in times of trouble. Now gently ask yourself, is the life that I believe is normal? the thinking that I believe is normal, the feeling, the habits. Do they reflect those values in my life? Are the people I live with, the friends I share time with, the food that I put into my mouth, the lifestyle I have, are they aligned to my values? And if not, then how can I align them to my very core? Just take a moment to see if there's any gap between what you've defined as your core within and the way you live your life on the outside. And now just gently bringing your mind back to the here and now. So I think it's important for us to now acknowledge that the world outside has changed and is changing. It's changing very rapidly. And whatever happens on the outside is bound to have an effect on the inside. Change in the way the world operates means we have to adapt. We have to transform ourselves. We have to be flexible. And I guess most of the time we do what others do. We follow what is considered to be the new norm by the world. In fact, these days, the changes are so great that almost every day we are seeing huge shifts, whether in the ideas that are being floated around us or the political, economic, financial changes, even the social changes of what you should and shouldn't do. It's very, very rapid. And my own sense is that if I want to keep up with all these changes, what I do need to do is to regularly come back to my core. Because unfortunately in today's world, the media has been telling us a lot about the negative side of what's happening in the world. And that can create a sense of anxiety, of fear, a feeling of being abandoned or lonely, and even just sadness. The sorrow of seeing how so many people are suffering, even if you are not. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in that tsunami of people's opinions and thoughts and feelings, because really people's feelings create energy, and that energy is like a tsunami, and it goes through the world, especially touching people's hearts when they are vulnerable. So I think if we are to move on in life and embrace the new norm, that it's up to us to keep ourselves aligned with what kind of new norm we want to see within ourselves. The external change may continue and may stay at this pace for quite some time. But do I just want to be pushed along with the rest? Or can I find a way to keep touching base with who I want to be within it all? How I want to react, how I want to respond, how I want to think, feel. Because if I keep in touch with my core, if I stay connected to my inner strength, then I start to make decisions based on that. No longer is there fear. No longer is there the sense of loss of freedom. And I realize that change is the name of the game. And being anxious and wondering what's going to come next is not actually helping me prepare for tomorrow. So last year I was actually preparing to leave to come back to Abu Dhabi after about 6 months of being in Mount Abu. And, according to the airline rules, I went and got myself tested, did a PCR test. And quite amazingly, my PCR test was positive. And I had absolutely no symptoms. And I was one of the first people in the community where I was staying to be diagnosed as COVID positive. The interesting thing is many others possibly were positive at the time. That's probably where I got it from. But I was the first one to actually get a test done. So it was quite a shock. And as you all know, and I know as well, the media was showing lots of alarming photographs of people who are extremely unwell. And I guess at that moment, I thought I really have this one moment to decide. Am I going to just fall in a heap and think life is over? Or am I going to get through this with courage? And there was no precedent. There was no one to ask. So, of course, I went into isolation. And I had such amazing luck that above my room was an open terrace. In India, there are these beautiful open terraces where you can walk. So I had space to do a little bit of exercise and walking every day and get some fresh air without coming into contact with anyone. And it was an amazing time, these 7 or 8 days that I spent alone, where I could just completely redefine what I wanted my life to be like. I had no one watching me. I had no obligations. And I could wake up when I wanted, sleep when I wanted, do absolutely what I wanted. Food was delivered to my door. And I'd get a few phone calls in the day to make sure that I was still alive. And of course, I was predominantly asymptomatic through the whole ordeal. But I just felt such incredible freedom, even though I was so confined. There was freedom here. There was freedom to just be me, to just live a life according to my own heart, to do exactly what I wanted to do at every moment of the day. And that 1 week that I spent alone gave me permission actually to break free from a box that I've always lived in. The box of social norms, conditioning, and more importantly, what I thought was necessary, a necessary normal. And That 1 week of complete freedom gave me the time and the space to understand myself so deeply, to understand how so many things that I do out of the fear of being judged, of not doing, if I didn't do them. So many things I do because I've never even considered that there is another way. Many of the things I do are because I'm still trying to fit in with a normal that's been defined by my past. And today, I'd like to challenge you to redefine your life, not on the basis of fear, not on the basis of having to fit in, not on the basis of having to live your life in the box that you've always known, but to think differently. So, excuse me, some of the things I did were to change the way I eat, to change my diet. Excuse me, because even though I had food delivered to my door, I redefined what I wanted. I realized that I needed so much less food than what I was consuming. I decided to opt for healthier options of food. I decided to exercise, not just at the times of the day when I thought it was good for me, but I decided to do little things during the day to keep my energy motivated, to keep my physical energy up as well. And most importantly, I decided to completely change my thinking patterns. I did have a bit of contact with the world through my phone and laptop, but I decided that if I had to completely step away on the 7th day or the 8th day from that room and walk back into the world as a new me, what is it that I needed to think and feel differently? What is it that was so important to me that if I held close to my heart and that I planted in my mind in these 7 or 8 days, that I could take out with me again and live a completely new life. And so I started to erase everything that was old, that was not serving me. And after erasing, I had to rewrite a new reality, a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling. And then I had to practice that. I had to practice in my meditation going back into that feeling again and again and again to make sure that it was indelible, that when I walked out there and I faced all the challenges again, I wasn't going to go back to that which I thought I had rubbed out, that I thought was erased, but was possibly just written very lightly, waiting to be picked up again. And this is where I think meditation is a practice that allows us to reconnect to our core again, to reset back to that core again, to the values, to the beliefs that I want to redefine my life. Because unless I choose to do something differently, unless I choose to find another way, no one's going to do it for me. And either I can continue to be a follower of the media, a follower of my family, a follower of my friends, a follower even of the people who are my mentors, who I really have a lot of respect for, but they're not me. Or I can choose to be a master. And in my own experimentation, in my own exploration, I can find a way that is so extraordinary, so beautiful, so aligned back to the principles, the qualities, the values that I know are my truth. And when I embrace those, and I think them, and I feel them, and I practice them in my life, then I think what starts to happen is, in living my truth, I give other people the permission to live their truth. Because as long as I stay a follower, I don't have the courage, and actually I don't have the power to allow others to also live theirs. I have to break free. I have to embrace a new norm within me and then demonstrate it on the outside to be a leader and to clear the path for many others to walk their own path. And this month is actually the month where I've been thinking a lot about the virtues of the founder of the Brahma Kumaris, Brahma Baba, an incredible man who went against what was considered normal in his time. He had the courage to defy all the moral, social, religious traditions of his time and connect back to his core and ask himself what really, really was his truth. And in doing so, he put women at the forefront of this organization, something that was totally unheard of in his time. He put young ones ahead of the old ones, and old ones ahead of the young ones. And so everyone felt equal. And no longer were you a leader just because you had the strength in your body to tell others what to do, because you looked good and you were in the prime of your life. No. Those who were elderly like him, 60, over 60, those who were under 20, young, naive, they ended up being the ones who started this movement, the movement of the inner search and then creating a new norm. And for me, what is normal is what leads me back to deep truths of spirituality. And I'm going to talk about 3 of the ones that mean the most to me today. The first, I think, is integrity. If I had to choose a new normal, I would choose a new normal that was based on being the same inside out. There's nothing I have to hide from the world. In fact, there's nothing that I have to hide from me. I am who I am, warts and all. There's the good, there's the bad, there's the ugly. And even whilst I see all of that, I'm still in love with myself. And I know that through perseverance and honesty, I can do a really good cleanup and get to my own state of perfection. So integrity, living inside out and outside in. The second thing that has been very important to me over the last 1 year is simplicity. Simplifying my life and going back to what is necessary to maintain happiness, not what is superfluous. When I traveled to India last March, I think I had with me about 6 sets of clothes and maybe a couple of light jackets, light sweaters. And I managed with that for 7.5 months. I didn't buy myself anything new. And I just realized how little it is that I need on the outside and how simple my life can be, and yet how content I can be with that amount. In fact, when I came back to Abu Dhabi and I opened my cupboards and I saw so much, I really had to ask myself, what for? And so I think simplicity in my heart, not holding anything of the past that is unnecessary, not holding any thoughts in my mind that I thought of yesterday, that are being dragged into today and are serving me no purpose at all. Really making sure that there's nothing negative left inside, nothing that is creating unnecessary waves of restlessness inside me. So simplicity. It's such a beautiful virtue and so aligned to anyone who wants to practice a life of spirituality. And the third virtue that I'd like to talk about, the value that I hold very close to my own heart, is courage. To always maintain the courage, and it goes hand in hand with faith. Faith in myself, faith in my destiny. Faith in others and their own destiny, knowing that each one is doing what's best for them. And then faith in the Almighty. And all of those faiths give me the courage to be me. To never have fear, to step outside my own little box, the walls that I've created, the cage of my own old beliefs. To have the courage to walk my talk, even though I might look different to others. Yes, it's important to integrate, to let people know what you're doing and why you're doing it, but never to feel like I'm holding myself back just because I need to fit into someone else's normal. So let me embrace who I really am today and live that new normal that is actually natural, that is actually just going back to who I really am, that is actually resetting, redefining, and discovering the true me. So I think it's a time, not just 2020, but even 2021. It's a new time that we've entered, a time when time itself is calling us to check deeply and to change quickly, to readjust and to move ahead as masters. So thank you very much for being with me today, and it would be wonderful if we could meet somewhere, whether in the UK or if you come to Abu Dhabi. So welcome to come to Inner Space and see what we do. And even if we don't, just to know that we're on the same path and that we're creating something new, something exciting, something upgrading, uplifting, not just for ourselves, but for humanity, as we hold hands and enter a completely new era. So thank you, and Om Shanti.
So relax your body. And allow your mind to relax too. Let your mind settle. Let the dust of your thoughts settle. And allow yourself to be still. Very quiet. Very calm. And as I do this, as I turn within, I reconnect to the core, of my being, the heart of my being. I reconnect to the energy of goodness that lies within. And I feel that energy. I feel those qualities, those values. And I, the inner being of light. I'm vibrating. I'm radiating all of that goodness. And as I reconnect to my core, I'm reminded of who I really am. And it is this that forms a basis to my new norm. Let my new normal be one that is totally realigned to truth, to my truth. Let my responses, my behavior, my thinking, my feeling, all come from this truth. This is the new me, and I embrace this new me. I breathe in the energy of this new me. I hold this energy close. As I have uplifted and upgraded my understanding of myself and my own identity, I have also changed my approach to life. No longer is the new normal on the outside dictating to me who I should be, but I stand as the master, connected on the inside, ready to respond to the ever-changing, chaotic world around me. From my core, The new norm is not to do with the external world. The new norm is to do with my internal world. Because as I change, the world around me responds in the same way. As I vibrate higher, situations around me cannot shake me, cannot move me. I have such inner power and strength through embracing my inner change and through holding that space, that I have the power to transform those situations, those very situations that try to pull up fear and make me anxious. Because my core of goodness knows no anxiety, no sorrow, no sadness, no fear. My core of goodness only radiates that which is beneficial for myself and beneficial to the world. So embracing the new norm is about creating and embracing a new me. Om Shanti.